Yo guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today I'm going to be doing another 2020 NHL mock draft simulation. Now in my original lottery simulations, I went for takeafon.com, seeing who would get the top 3 picks, and I basically just went for the top 15 picks and decided what teams would pick which players. Today I wanted to expand it, thanks to a few of you guys requesting to do so. Today we're going to expand it to the first round, the whole first round. Not just the top 15, but the top 31 picks in the 2020 NHL draft. So, which teams get inside the top 3 in this simulation, and which prospects make my top 31. Watch till the end for all my picks and predictions, and of course hit that subscribe button if you're new. Now you guys know the drill. I went through takeafon.com, simmed one time, and here are the results. Coming at number 1, the Chicago Blackhawks, my least favorite team, jumped up to the first overall spot, 8 points up, and I'm not exactly too happy about it. Then the Ottawa Senators with San Jose's pick, picks 2nd overall. LA moves up 1 spot to pick 3rd. Then Detroit 4th, Ottawa with their pick number 5, Anaheim 6, New Jersey 7, Buffalo 8, Montreal 9, New Jersey with Arizona's pick at number 10, Minnesota, Winnipeg, New York Rangers, Florida Panthers, and Columbus Blue Jackets. At number 16 is the Calgary Flames. Number 17 is the New Jersey Devils via the Vancouver Canucks. Number 18 is the Nashville Predators. Number 19 is the Carolina Hurricanes via the Toronto Maple Leafs due to the Marleau trade. And number 20, the Edmonton Oilers. Number 21 is the Ottawa Senators via the New York Islanders. Number 22 is the Dallas Stars. Number 23 is the New York Rangers via the Carolina Hurricanes with the Brady Shea deal. At number 24 is Vegas. Number 25 is Minnesota via Pittsburgh because of the Jason Zucker trade. And then at number 26, Philly. Number 27, Washington. Number 28, Colorado. Number 29 is the San Jose Sharks via the Tampa Bay Lightning. Number 30 is the St. Louis Blues. And number 31, the Anaheim Ducks via the Boston Bruins. Now wasting zero time getting into the first overall pick, and even though I don't like him too much, the Chicago Blackhawks, who jumped up 8 spots, will select Alexis Lafreniere. Now, the Blackhawks aren't exactly suffering on the left side. You have Kubalik and DeBrincat, who can play both left wing and right, but Lafreniere is one of the slam dunk picks of this draft. There might be a couple of teams that don't need a left winger, but Lafreniere is the obvious choice, and I don't see there being any team out there that doesn't pick him first overall. Then going on to the 2nd overall pick in the Ottawa Senators via the San Jose Sharks. And man, for San Jose, we pretty good at Quinton Byfield right now. And I think that's exactly what the Ottawa Senators are thinking. I think they'll select him 2nd overall. For Ottawa, you already have a decent amount of good centers for the future. Colin White is already pretty good. Logan Brown potentially too. But to me, Ottawa could use that superstar center to play alongside Brady Tkachuk. And I think Quinton Byfield will be that. He might not be completely NHL ready next year, but at his peak, I think he could be a top 5 dominant center in the NHL someday with a physical edge that I hope to see him encapsulate at the NHL level. Now going on to the LA Kings with the 3rd overall pick, and this is where the draft kind of opens up for me, because with LA, if they drafted 2nd overall, I still think they would take either one of Quinton Byfield or Tim Stützle, but at number 3, the LA Kings, I think, will select Jamie Drysdale. LA is one of those teams that they're around that 3 to 4 range, I think might be the team to end up taking Drysdale, and I think that is pretty likely. On the forward end of their prospect pool, although Stützle would be absolutely amazing for them, they already got so many dangerous offensive weapons. I mean, just in the last draft alone, Turcotte, Kaliev, Vegamo, that's absolutely nasty. But they really do need something amazing for the future defensively. Although Bjornfoot is very solid, Clegg is very solid, Dursey is very solid, there's nothing that really shines to you as superstar talent. But Jamie Drysdale can be that, and I think might be that as soon as next season. And then that leaves the Detroit Red Wings, and I think they'll be one of the more obvious picks of this draft. They'll go up and select German forward Tim Stützle. Now, Stützle is one of the more solid prospects of this draft. I currently have him ranked number 4, and I think for Detroit, after you get Moritz Seider, to get Stützle at number 4, I think is just another German ad that they would love to have. And at the same time, I don't think they need another center. Stützle, I think, can be that number 1 guy. Although Dylan Larkin is very solid, Stützle just has so much potential and could easily go maybe as high as 2nd overall. So to get him at 4th overall is not bad for Detroit. But now ending the top 5 with number 5 and the Ottawa Senators, their pick, and at this spot, I think they'll select Lucas Raymond. To get both Quinton Byfield and Lucas Raymond, to me, the second and the third best prospects in this draft, is a pretty solid haul for the Ottawa Senators. Even though they didn't get a guy like Alexis Lafreniere, that's still very, very good. Raymond is a guy who I think can be an elite winger for the Ottawa Senators. And if he does end up playing on that right side, you could have a potential line of Brady Tkachuk as a left winger, Quinton Byfield at center, and Lucas Raymond at the right wing. Yes, please. But now going to the number 6 overall pick and the Anaheim Ducks, and in this spot, I think they will take Marco Rossi. Now, I think ideally they would want to have Jamie Drysdale in this spot because they don't really have that amazing superstar defensive prospect for the future, but Marco Rossi is very good, and I think at getting him at number 6 is a very solid pick. You have a top 2 center core of the future of Trevor Zegras and Marco Rossi. That's pretty fantastic. And hey, for Anaheim Ducks fans, you already have Hampus Lindholm, you already have Josh Manson, you already have Shea Theodore. Okay, sorry, that was too soon. I'm sorry about that. But we're just going to move on here to the New Jersey Devils coming at number 7. And with this spot, I think they will end up selecting Jake Sanderson. Now, I personally would not even touch him with a 10-foot pole at number 7. But I think for a team like New Jersey that's grasping at straws for defense, you have the 10th overall pick anyways. And Jake Sanderson could probably be picked before then. So I think they do take that chance and getting him at number 7. But he's a guy that can shut down offenses very well. And although I don't see him being a top 2 defenseman in the future, that's a guy that in terms of defensive potential definitely has that going for him. But now having Jake Sanderson at number 7 kind of opens the entire draft up, because that kind of happened in the last draft with Philip Broberg going to Edmonton, and then you had all these guys right outside of that waiting to be picked. That is kind of the same thing. Now going at the 8th overall pick and the Buffalo Sabres, I think they'll take the best center available, which at that spot is COL Perfetti. For Buffalo, I think they're looking for a short-term answer to that center spot, and although I don't think COL Perfetti is quite NHL ready, that's a player that I think could definitely be a great second-line player for Buffalo behind Jack Eichel, and especially now with Dylan Cousins possibly being a winger at the NHL level, COL Perfetti seems like a pretty good fit to me. Then going on to the Montreal Canadiens at number 9, and with their pick, it's definitely fascinating because they could go every single route imaginable, but I think they will go for the best player available in this draft, which at number 9 I think is personally Alexander Holtz. Now, Alexander Holtz is one of the best, especially European prospects in this draft, I think. And for Montreal, although you already got an amazing goal scorer last year in Cole Caulfield, getting another one, I don't think hurts them whatsoever. And when you're looking at fixing that power play, that's a guy that I think could totally do that. And also provide some even strength scoring that they also need to. But now going to the end of the top 10 at number 10 and the New Jersey Devils via the Arizona Coyotes. And in this spot, I think they'll end up selecting Jack Quinn. They'll have both Jack Hughes and Jack Quinn. To me, it's just a beautiful fit. And again, with them kind of reaching for Jake Sanderson at number 7, I think they'll want to go for the best offensive player available at number 10. And getting Jack Quinn at number 10 is not bad whatsoever. One of the best goal scorers of this draft, in my opinion. Although I think he's kind of going a little bit overrated right now, and I don't see him being the best goal scorer in the league at some point. That's a guy that I think can get upwards of 30 goals at the NHL level. And for New Jersey, they need all the goal scoring they can get. But now going on to the Minnesota Wild at number 11, and this is one of the most interesting picks of them all. But at the same time, for the Wild, I think they go for that top 6 center, and they will end up picking Anton Lundell at number 11. Now, I was really tempted to put Askarov in this spot, but they already have Kaapo Kähkönen. They already have Hunter Jones, who they got in the last draft too in the 2nd round. They're pretty set when it comes to goaltenders, although it might not happen soon. I think it will eventually become that way. I don't think they need Yaroslav Askarov. And you have the chance to get, in my opinion, a top 6 player in this draft, that being Anton Lundell, and he's just a perfect Minnesota Wild player. Spectacular defensively, one of the smartest players in this draft, I think, and positionally is one of the most responsible players you'll ever see come for the draft. But now moving on to number 12 and the Winnipeg Jets, and at the 12th overall spot, I think they take defenseman Braden Schneider. Now, Winnipeg Winnipeg has a lot of different options here, but I think they will go for the defenseman. Again, as it's been said before, and I do agree with this philosophy to some extent, that if you have the chance to get a smart defenseman, I think a lot of teams in this draft are going to want to take it. Especially with this draft being sort of weak on D, I think you're going to see a lot of defensemen going a lot higher than expected, and one of those guys is Schneider. But now going on to the 13th overall spot and the New York Rangers, and I think they'll end up selecting Seth Jarvis. Now, unfortunately for New York, I think they would go for a center, but at 13th overall, there's not a lot of options unless you really want to reach for a prospect. But Seth Jarvis is a guy who I think could play center at the NHL level, will most likely be a winger, but to get him at 13th overall is a very solid draft pick in my opinion. For a guy that is more on the smaller side, has so much great work ethic on him, turn it on in the second half, but in terms of great smarts and just great speed, that's a guy that I think will help New York and will be a force to be reckoned with. But now going on to the 14th overall pick in the Florida Panthers, and just like when I pick at number 12, I think they will go for a defenseman, and that D-man will be Kaiden Guhle. Now, for Florida, they aren't exactly in need of offensive superstars anymore, so I think they will go for a defenseman. Again, they did get Spencer Knight in the last draft too, so the goaltending is pretty much fixed. I don't see them taking Askarov either, but with Kaiden Guhle, he's a guy that, even though he's a running joke on this channel, I think can be a serviceable, solid, gritty defenseman at the NHL level. He might not be anything crazy, but for Florida to get a guy like that, they're already a contender, so if they do draft him 14th overall, I do see where they're coming from. But now 15th overall with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and at this spot, I think CBJ will end up selecting Dawson Mercer. Now, just like the Seth Jarvis pick, to get Dawson Mercer at 15th overall is a pretty solid one. Definitely one of the more pure skill players in this draft, I think, and although he didn't have the greatest second half in my opinion, that's still a guy who I think will be a top 6 winger at the NHL, and when it comes to puck skills, when it comes to smart, and when it comes to skating really solidly, Mercer brings a pretty complete offensive package, and I think for Columbus will be super valuable for them. But now going on to the 16th overall pick, and you've kind of noticed that Yaroslav Askarov has not been taken yet, and that's been due to circumstances and the teams that's been selected so far. But at number 16, the Calgary Flames are there to take care of it, and I think they will select Yaroslav Askarov. Now for Calgary, their goaltending isn't horrendous right now, but I still think he could use a pretty good upgrade. And although Askarov isn't going to be in the NHL next season, that's a guy that in terms of starter potential is one of the best goaltenders we've seen since Vasilevsky, since Carey Price. The pedigree is 100% there to be a starter at the NHL level, and I think Calgary does take that risk. Now going on to the 17th overall pick in the New Jersey Devils via the Vancouver Canucks, and at this spot I see them taking another defenseman, that being Helge Grans. Now you already have Jake Sanderson, you already have Jack Quinn, you fix a pure defensive problem and you fix a pure offensive problem. But I think Grans kind of fixed both. He has a very solid two-way game, has a May birthday, so he's really young in this draft too, but was able to play 17 SHL games, looked really solid in my opinion, and although I don't think he's the 17th best player in this draft, for New Jersey it would be a pretty smart add to strengthen that defense even more, and I think Grans can be a top 4, maybe even top 3 defenseman for the future. But now going on to the 18th overall pick and the Nashville Predators, and at this spot I think they'll select Dylan Holloway. Now I don't think they'll go for a defenseman since they're pretty much set both now and in the future, I think still, with guys like Dante Fabro coming up. So just like in the last draft, I think they will focus on the forwards, and to get Dylan Holloway at the 18th overall pick is pretty fantastic. It's mostly due to circumstance that Holloway drops this much, but I think he's right now easily a top 15 prospect in this draft for me, and getting him at 18 is definitely Grav approved. But now coming in at number 19, the Carolina Hurricanes via the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I think they would take Askarov if he's available, but at 19, I really don't see that happening. Just like the last draft, I see them going for forwards, and I see it being Connor Zary at number 19. Now, I don't really see Zary being more than a really solid third-line center, but that's still pretty good for the Carolina Hurricanes at number 19. I don't think they need to swing for the fences and get this brilliantly potential player. I think they'll want to go for safe picks, and Zary, I think, can be that. If he can improve his consistency, if he can improve his skating, that's a guy that I think will be a very solid NHL player. He might not be an Alexis Lafreniere, but still pretty solid. Now going into the 20th spot with the Edmonton Oilers, and at this spot, I think they'll select a German to please Leon Godseidel, and I think that German will be John-Jason Peterka. Now, I personally prefer Lukas Reichel, but Peterka is a guy who's getting a lot of well-deserved hype still. In the DEL, he's a very useful player. He wasn't on the greatest team, but still put up really solid stats in my opinion, and Peterka is a guy that really shows up in the big moments. Although I don't think he's NHL ready next season, that's a guy that I think will develop into a very solid middle six player for Edmonton, which is exactly what they need. But now going into the 21st spot in the Ottawa Senators via the New York Islanders, and I think they'll select their first defenseman in this draft, that being Tappi Niemela. Now Niemela is in my opinion, maybe even the best Finnish defender in this draft, but definitely one of the better defenders purely in this draft. He's one of the more safe picks in my opinion because he has a pretty big floor, but not a super high ceiling, but still for Ottawa is one of the better options there in my opinion, especially when it comes to defensemen. It's a pretty solid ad, even though I prefer a guy like William Wallander or Emil Andre. Niemela is a guy who will be a solid NHL player, I think, and could fit into their top 4. But coming in at number 22 of the Dallas Stars, and I think they're pretty much done drafting defensemen. They got Thomas Harley in the last draft, so I think they will go for forwards, and I think that one will be Rodion Amirov. Now, Amirov is one of the more interesting prospects in this draft. He was ranked 5th on EU Skaters by the NHL Central Scouting, so I could see him going as high as maybe even the top 14, but I could also see him dropping back again. It all depends on what players drafted ahead of him, obviously, but for Dallas, Amirov offers a lot of value. He's super strong defensively, but has really solid offensive upside. And for a forward that can be very solid defensively, that's exactly what Dallas does on a daily basis, and I think that's what they will like in Amirov. But now coming in 23 with the New York Rangers, and although they weren't able to get a center that could potentially be a top 6 guy at number 13, I think they'll definitely take the risk at this 23rd spot and select Hendrix Lapierre. Now Lapierre has the potential to be one of the better players in this draft, but he suffered 3 different concussions in the last 18 months. That is a huge red flag. But if he's able to get past those health issues, that's a guy that skill-wise is still, in my opinion, the top 15 guy in this draft. Of course, with the health issues considered, has been dropping. But for New York, they can afford to take a risk here and there, and if Lapierre pans out, I think can be a solid, maybe even a second-line center for New York. Then coming in at number 24 with the Vegas Golden Knights, and they're a pretty smart team, all things considered scouting-wise. I think they absolutely tore up the 2019 draft in a good way. And at number 24, I think they'll make a pretty smart pick in Noel Gunler. To me, Noel Gunler is still a top 12, at least, prospect in this draft. And I know there's some concerns over his character, but in terms of potential, in terms of skill, Gunler brings that. And although there might be some big inconsistency there, I think Vegas is a team that will be patient with a guy like that. They already got some great prospects in the system. Cody Glass comes to mind, Payne Krebs, Pavel Dorofiev. I don't think there's a huge rush for a team like that. Then going on to the 25th overall pick in the Minnesota Wild via the Pittsburgh Penguins. And of course, they ended up getting Anton Lindell with their 11th spot, but I think they will go for defenseman in this next pick, and I think that will be William Wallander. Now, Wallander is one of the more unique prospects in this draft because when it comes to his ceiling, it's absolutely ridiculous. That's a guy who I think can become at least, I think, maybe a 3rd defenseman at the NHL level. Although his floor is also very low, you're getting a lot of a boom or bust prospect here. But Wallander at his peak is a guy who I think could be a great defenseman and definitely one of the better Swedish defensemen at the NHL level, which is saying quite a bit. Now we're going to go with back-to-back Swedish defensemen. Coming in at number 26 with the Philadelphia Flyers, I think they'll select Emil Andre. Now Andre might not have the top-end ceiling of William Wallander, but I think Andre is a much better bet to make the NHL level and be very consistent too. Although there is still some work to be done in his defensive zone, I think. Offensively, there's a lot of talent there, a lot of skill, and I think the consistency will reign true at the NHL level, especially if Philly gives him the time to develop. Then going on to number 27, the Washington Capitals, and I think the Caps are willing to make some risky picks. Last year, they went with Connor McMichael in the first round. I wasn't the biggest fan of that pick, but they proved me wrong, and McMichael has been absolutely fantastic. And I think they'll go for another risk at number 27, that being Jeremy Poirier. Now, Jeremy Poirier, to me, is still the second best defensive prospect in this draft, but also at the same time, he's a guy that could do absolutely nothing because the defensive game can be rather poor. If he fixes some of the decision making, that's a player though that offensively has all the tools to be absolutely dominant and run a power play for like a whole decade. Then going on to the 28th overall pick in the Colorado Avalanche, and I think the third German will be selected, that being Lukas Reichel. Now, first things first, Lukas Reichel's consistency can be a problem, but when he is at his peak, he is a fantastic offensive player, great playmaker with some solid puck skills as well, but Lukas Reichel will be more of a development project. I don't think he's going to be ready for the next couple of years at the NHL level, but Colorado can afford that time. They already have so many fantastic prospects in their system, but adding a guy like Lukas Reichel, who I think is a top 25 prospect in this draft, is pretty solid at number 28. Now going on to the San Jose Sharks' first pick in this draft via the Tampa Bay Lightning, and at number 29, I think they'll select Ryan O'Rourke. Now, I'm not really sure that Ryan O'Rourke is the best defenseman pick at this spot, but in terms of being in that kind of Caden Gooley territory, of being really solid defensively, but also pitching in offensively too, that's a guy that I think can become very valuable for San Jose. Although I don't think he has extreme upside, I think could be worth a first round pick, and for San Jose that is in need of any defense, could be the right pick when it's said and done. Now going to the St. Louis Blues to the 30th overall pick, and at this spot, I think they'll select Ronnie Hirvonen. Now, St. Louis is kind of in the ballpark to do anything. Again, they're the Stanley Cup champions, so they kind of just do whatever at this point. But Ronnie Hirvonen is a pretty solid pick at number 30. Although it's not a big steal or anything, that's a guy that I think will become a very solid middle six center at the NHL level. A guy that's reliable, a guy that can pitch in offensively, and for St. Louis, that's just their entire game. So I think he'll fit pretty well for that. But now getting into the last pick of the first round, at number 31 with the Anaheim Ducks via the Boston Bruins, I have them selecting Justin Barron. Now, I'm not sure if Justin Barron is the best choice here, but in terms of projectability, I think Justin Barron does have that. If he's developed right, I think he can become a very solid top six defenseman. I don't see really anything too amazing about his game, but when it comes to Anaheim, I think they're in the market for defensemen, and Justin Barron at this spot is one of the better ones available. But those are my picks for the top 31 of the first round of the 2020 NHL Draft. Of course, with this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Comment down below your thoughts on my picks, what you agree and disagree with, and who you think your favorite team will take in the 2020 Draft as well. Share this video with boys, get the picks out there as well, and click on this card for all my 2021 NHL Draft content. I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.